What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the SHIPIT Nation Cash Game Show for week 13 of the NFL season. Recording a day earlier. Get this out to everyone. You guys have more time to check it out and find the plays for cash this week. Obviously, it's a little bit earlier, so we don't have all the news, but seems relatively straightforward at this point. But a lot could change. There's some very, very clear plays for cash games that we'll get to specifically at the running back position, as you can see. Screen sharing here with the solver. That's who we're partnered with for the optimizer. If you get the optimizer and you're a member at shipitnation.com, projections come preloaded right here. And man, we're 2 for 2 on the update. So this just got updated. It's like 17 minutes ago. So running good in those streets. But as always, joined by my guy Title. What's going on over there, man?
Doing well. 10 games on the main slate. Record on Thursday, like you said. You have a fun weekend coming up. We'll leave it at that, but enjoy yourself. Hopefully win some money in the NFL streets, of course. Today, fun slate, though. Showdown, 500K up top, NBA, huge NHL slate, too. All 3 sports, projections for all of them. Huge night in the association as well yesterday. Shout out Rio again. Nice call for D-Lo. D-Russ got the job done for a lot of members. Someone took down the $4.20 entry max in the Discord, and someone took down a showdown. I don't know if it was $10 or something into $1,000. We do have showdown content over here too, Monday through Friday in the NBA streets. But I don't know if you can tell, voice getting a little sick maybe. So I'll limit the talk in 2 shows a day.
Yeah, you got to get that out of the way before the holidays. You know, it's early, almost December.
Exactly.
You got to. Yeah, it's funny because both my kids went down. Daughter was down last week. Son was down the week before. I'm like, all right, this is good. Clear it out before the holidays.
This is good.
Smooth, get it taken care of. But yeah, shout out to our guy Rio on the NBA side. You know, a lot of us are really focused, locked in on NFL right now. Some PGA stuff is popping back up, but Rio has been locked in on the NBA content, does a slate plan every single day, which kind of, it's a tier, I'd say tier by tier breakdown. He highlights his favorite guys from each tier. And the nice thing about that, he gets it up super early, a lot of times the night before. So you can wake up and start diving into the slate. He'll make updates throughout the day. He's doing a phenomenal job with that. And then obviously showdown content as well. NBA content is a beast, and he's just handling it all in stride. So definitely big shout out to our guy Rio. Hebrew Cheetah is the name in the DFS street. So love to see all that. In terms of this slate for cash games, another week where we see a lot of low totals. I have DraftKings pulled up. Let me zoom in here a little bit, make it a little easier to see. DraftKings pulled up. We have it sorted by value, and you can see at the quarterback position. A lot of times this will be a nice color. If someone's popping off the charts, there's nothing here. You'll see it when we go over to running backs. There's some guys popping off the charts, but quarterback, there's not a ton. And you just look at it, and it makes sense. There's not a lot that you absolutely want to lock in at the quarterback position. I will say, what you do at quarterback sometimes can be a priority, and other times it can be, let me come back to the position and see what I have left. I think this might be one of those weeks where it's like, all right, let me fill out the rest of my roster, come back to quarterback, and see what I have left. Now that could change. The dynamics of the slate could change. It's Thursday afternoon. But, as it stands here, pretty wide open. If you want exposure to a high total game, you have Brock Purdy down here at 6.1K. I'd be fine playing him. I mean, the matchup on paper people might not love, but look at that game last week, the Bills and the Eagles. Like, you can beat the Eagles. Quarterbacks can beat the Eagles. And I like Purdy. He has all his weapons. Fine going there. I'd be fine with Russell Wilson. I mean, that game has a big total sitting at 47, 48 range. He's 5,700. He's been fine. No Jonathan Taylor for the Colts. Maybe they look to pass it a little bit more. Minshew, 5.3K, does have the rushing upside too. We saw it last week. Got in the box on the ground. Pickett at 5-1. They fired the offensive coordinator, and their offense kind of started to be productive. He's only 5.1K. So I guess long story short, a lot of different ways I think you can go at quarterback this week. If you want to spend, still not against Jalen Hurts. I mean, people are going to look at it and say, oh, the 49ers defense, blah, blah, blah. I'm not worried about that. If I have the money, I'd be fine going to him. He would be the spend that I want, though. So I don't know. For me, it's pretty wide open position. Are you seeing anything more concrete at the quarterback on DK?
No, I'm with you. I think there's probably like 5 guys right now. Zach Moss, we'll get to him at running back, but just the clear lock and load play on DK 4,600. No JT, so that means you have a free square that's cheap, which means I think Tua and Hurts are in play. Again, Purdy, if it's not those two, so I think it's Hurts is number one at 8,200 if you have the money. If you don't have the money, 7,900 Tua. I'm not worried about like San Fran defense really and stuff either. You want Hurts in competitive games. That's when they need him more. He'll use his legs more. He'll drop back more, etc. So he's matchup proof. Tua, always they drop back a ton too. If you don't have the money for them, then I think you go all the way to Purdy at 6'1", Sam Howell at 6'2", or Russ at 5'7". Those are my 5 guys. Don't have a strong lean between Howell and Purdy. Howell just drops back so much against Miami, should be playing from ahead. Howell should even drop back even more. He has all 4 quarters. He could kept 12 or 10 going into the fourth quarter and still get there. Has some rushing upside too. Whereas Purdy feels safer, and he has flashed the ceiling too. But like McCaffrey's a good play. He has so much goal line touchdown equity that can take away from Purdy too. So I don't know. No strong lean right now, Purdy or Howell. Then if I don't have the money there, I would go down to Russ. Again, in a dome, Houston plays fast. Houston can put up points. Fourth quarter, Russ again. He could have 8, 9. Get the garbage time there with Howell, Russ. So I think those are the 5 guys. If you have the money, you can pay up, but otherwise I'm totally good with any of those 3.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same page with quarterback here on DraftKings. Do us a favor, though, hit that like button and subscribe. Help us out a ton trying to grow this channel. As you know, all our shows are free. We want to get ourselves out there, get the information to the people out there, and then come on over to SHIPITNation.com where we have our premium content for cash games specifically. Make it very clear for you. We get you started on that path to success for cash games in DFS. 4 core plays on DK, 4 core plays on FanDuel. To fill out the rest of your roster, we have our projections. We have many other tools on the website to help you complete that roster. We get you started with almost half your lineup, 4 on DraftKings, 4 on FanDuel. So head on over to SHIPITNation.com.
And one point on that, because we do have that for all the sports, but NBA specifically, it's updated throughout the night. Stuff changes. Like that Embiid news yesterday, NBA, you need to be out. We talk about it on the education all the time. If you don't have that time, don't play NBA. If you do, content's updated throughout the night, changes in yellow. I made a bunch of the cash report when Embiid was out. Didn't necessarily work out, but always keep refreshing. Same thing with NFL too. Sometimes 50 minutes before lock, I'm debating 5, 6 teams. Like last week, I think I made one a little later than I wanted to as well. So get in the Discord and always be refreshing for yellow.
Yeah, and that is an important part because playing NBA DFS in general, cash games, tournaments, whatever it is, can be very confusing, I'd say. And hard to understand. And you have to pivot on the fly very quickly. So, that's why we went with this sort of direction for cash games. Just 4 solid stone plays to get you started. Because, if you give too many plays, then it gets confusing. Like, well, they kind of like this guy, they kind of don't. This is just easy. You get 4 on each site, gets you started. And then, like I said, we have the projection. We have our Discord, a lot of different ways you can fill out those other spots. But that's why we kept it with 4 solid plays for you. And in NBA specifically, those being updated throughout the night, big advantage, because a lot of times in cash games 50-50s, not everyone's going in there making necessary changes. Like they are not. So it gives you a leg up on the competition for sure.
Helped when the guy win 10 grand too. Last thing on it, but he literally said, I shouted him out in Discord congratulating. He said thanks, but he goes, thanks for Boomer and Shipping Nation. We update the projections timely. They're in Solver. He said he ran the late swap and he thanked Rio for the D-Russ call. So
huge.
Less is more.
Huge
like
stuff.
We talk about projections being updated. It's big.
Yeah, it's a hard sport, man. It certainly is a hard sport to be successful at. But, man, the product that we built, the team that we built, puts you on a good path for success. There's no doubt about that. All right, pick back over to NFL real quick. Well, not real quick for the rest of the show. But quarterback over on FanDuel, a little bit different, I think. And you look at it, now we start to see some guys popping as solid values. You have the spend right here in Jalen Hurts. FanDuel is always going to be – you're always going to have more of an option to spend up because of the way the pricing is set up. And you see it here. Jalen Hurts at $9K, I think is a fine cash game play. Can we make it happen? Well, let's see. Let's see with the rest of these positions. But, if you're going to spend, and he's not that much more expensive than some of these other guys here, I'd prefer just to get to him. I mean, you have baked in free fantasy points essentially with Jalen Hurts, the goal line tush push. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, he's just the most stable fantasy quarterback basically each and every slate. He's 9K. I think probably have a good chance to get him. Other guys I'm interested in. Now, I guess the one big pricing difference would be CJ Stroud, who on DK, they adjusted him
on DK.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
81
so
on DK relative is so much different.
Oh, yeah, so much more. Yeah, 81 on DK, 8K on FanDuel. That's Hurts a huge difference.
2 is 79. So, yeah.
He's $100 cheaper than Hurts on DK. He is $1,000 cheaper on FanDuel. I like that game. I like getting exposure to that game. They don't really have the super cheap quarterbacks. I'd be fine playing him. I'd be fine with Purdy. But I think I probably want to try to get Jalen Hurts. That's what my initial lean is. And again, we'll see as we go on throughout the other positions. But getting Hurts seems like a good idea. Stroud, I'd be fine with, and then Purdy. So kind of looking at three guys essentially.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get Hurts, definitely good with it. But I mean, Stroud at home in that dome. Denver's defense has been better, but I don't worry about that stuff too much. Has some legs on them too. So that 1,000 might be enough. Tua still, I mean, they drop back so much. He has the weapons, 8,400 solid. So if that 600 is enough, kind of how you see it. But yeah, the punt plays aren't nearly as in play. The cheapest I'd go is Russell Wilson at 7,400, I think. And then you're like still 7,400, which again, 600 could go a long way. Who knows? But 600 to get CJ Stroud just feels way, way better. So to spend up position because of how the salary is, get Hurts fine. CJ's price good. Tua's price good. Purdy at 7.8. If I prefer Stroud to Purdy. If I don't have the 200, fine. Purdy, otherwise Russ. So again, five guys, I guess. But I guess Sam Howell's there too. But probably not as much Russ and Sam Howell. Probably in that Stroud to Jalen Hurts range more than likely.
Yeah, I didn't mention Russ, but just certainly interested in him as well. Let's check out some running backs. And like you kind of alluded to, no Jonathan Taylor. All the work should be going to Zach Moss. We'll give you one freebie this week. Just play Zach Moss in cash games. It's not very complicated. He's just a guy you have to play without Jonathan Taylor this week. 5,600 on FanDuel. He's cheap on DK as well. I believe 46. He is a priority play on the slate. It's a simple play. Now after him, what do? I think you have some solid options. I'm going to continue to stay on Rachaad White. Gets all the work. This game isn't super appealing, but man, 7,500. I get it that he's better suited for DK scoring, but he gets the goal line work too, and they should win this game. So I'm in on him. Javonte Williams is still cheap at 66. If you want to go all the way up to Christian McCaffrey at 98, I'd be cool with that. One guy that it's not showing up great for us, but I wouldn't mind going to Derrick Henry potentially. He's got the 2 touchdowns that are at home, 2 touchdowns last week. They're at home. So I don't necessarily hate that, but it's Zach Moss. And then on FanDuel, you're probably picking 2 guys for cash. More times than not, you're going 3 running backs. Fine with a lot of these guys up top. What are your thoughts here? Yeah,
Henry and Eckler are in that range. If you landed there, I don't think it's crazy, but I think it's those top 5 guys. Zach Moss is a lock. Usually FanDuel, you play 2 running backs, or you play 3 running backs. So it would be 2 other ones. You play one in the flex usually, with it being half-point PPR. So yeah, Rachaad White, Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, all good price tag. If you have the money for C-Mac, I'll add Jalen Warren in there as well because – man, the Najee has been solid, but solid matchup. They should run the ball a ton. Warren's going to get 15-plus touches. That 6,500 tag, I would rather Javonte and I would rather Breece. But if somehow that $100 or $200 or you play 2 of the 3, I don't think Warren's crazy either. But, yeah, mainly I agree with our projections, how we have it sorted. I totally agree with that. I'm going to blow my nose quick.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, it's Moss and then a couple of these guys. I mean, you have good value plays in here too. If you are playing Hurts at quarterback, you have options. So pretty straight. It makes it a little more straightforward when you have one guy you're playing, and that one guy for sure is Zach Moss. That one guy is also Zach Moss over on DK as well. Zach Moss is 4,600. probably even better suited over on DraftKings. You're going to play him on both sites, but Zach Moss at 46, you're just plugging him in. After Zach Moss, I mean,
what do you think? I know it's really early. Tournaments, Zach Moss, percentage-wise in that millie, it's going to be above 50, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Probably it is hard in the millie to get guys that highly owned or see them come in with that much ownership, but it's going to be 50. I mean, there's going to be a lot of the 150 guys that come close to locking. I mean, there's other guys at the position for sure. So I mean, I don't think in tournaments you absolutely have to, but I mean the price is just it's so cheap.
Like compared to when we touch wide receivers too, compared to that value, there's some in the 3K range, which doesn't make it impossible. But yeah, he projects so well without Jake. Like if he was 6,600, we still have him projected almost right with Rachaad White. So that shows how strong he is. But keep going, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's important. I got all 13 games in here. Let's take some of those bad boys out. All right, back down to 10. Rachaad White, we talked about him on FanDuel. He's better suited for DK. He's only 6,300. They really just don't bring his price tag up at all, and this is a good matchup against Carolina. He's, I think, a really solid option. I mean, you look at his production. He has not been below 16 fantasy points in 6 games. I mean, it's just a very, very nice floor for cash games. McCaffrey's even cheaper at over here than on FanDuel at 9K. He's matchup proof, whatever you think. I mean, he's that guy. 9K, he can definitely make it work this week. Williams, we talked about him. I think he's fine. Breece Hall, fine with him. It's a lot of the same guys. I do want some exposure. Maybe it's more of a tournament thing to the Pittsburgh guys because of that offensive coordinator. And maybe it is more in tournaments because it was a pretty close split last week. And we've been crapping on Najee Harris all season, but I do think he's going to have a little more success moving forward. This might not be the spot for cash games, but in tournaments potentially. And then Derrick Henry, I'd be fine with Derrick Henry at 6,800. We saw it last week. He still has the 2 touchdown upside. He's been better as the season goes on. Be fine going there, but I'm believing in the projections really this week. A lot of these guys up top are the ones I'll be targeting for cash and tournament.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, it makes it easy. Zach Moss, a free score on both sides, so you only need like DK, double tight end, 4 receivers have been a lot more viable. FanDuel, you're probably finding 2 other running backs, but I think who you're finding is pretty much the same on FanDuel and DK. To say White, C-Mac, Javonte, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry names. Only thing that stands out is C-Mac's price on DK. It's just too cheap. It's easier to get on DK than FanDuel, and he fits scoring there too. So that's really the only thing that stands out.
Yeah, kind of priority, I think, this week. And not only cash games, but tournaments. We'll see how it all shakes out. Over at the wide receiver position, again, we see it similar to quarterback where there's not a lot of guys popping up as solid values, but I think we can certainly find some plays mixed in here for cash games if you want to go all the way up to the top. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is 9,600. If deciding between like spending on Tyreek Hill or Christian McCaffrey, for me, it's pretty simple. I'm going to be on McCaffrey over Hill. But 9,600, it's a big boy price tag, but he's paid it off almost all season long. We have Michael Pittman showing up as a solid play. It's a product of Jonathan Taylor being out, maybe a few more passes. He has a really good connection with Minshew. Cortland Sutton, I think, is a great way to get exposure to that game. That total sitting at 40, right around 48. Sutton's clearly the number one guy there. He's been solid too, at least 9. 9's not a massive number, but he's had some 18s, 19s, 17 fantasy points, but at least 9 in 6 straight games. And it's a good starting point for cash games. We got McLaurin up here. Washington likely to be playing from behind. He's 5,400. Cool with that. Good with Downs. Good with Pickens. I think he's a fine option. Robert Woods. So I guess Tank Dell showed up on the injury report yesterday. If for some reason he's out, like we're going to be going
whole
to
slate changes.
Yeah, the whole thing changes. So this is the substantial news on the slate. I mean, this total's big. Tank Dell has been an absolute beast. You're going to be looking at Nico Collins at 68, which I'd totally be fine with.
My guess is he'll probably play.
I think he plays too. I mean, seems like a tough dude, grinded out type guy, but that is the pretty big news to kind of wait and see. Let's just sort this by projections and see if anything's showing up here. Amon-Ra St. Brown's always, a cash viable guy, specifically on DraftKings. This would be a guy that I just have to kind of land on. Cooper Kupp, yeah, sure, maybe. Again, it looks like a kind of wide open position. It could change, obviously, if Tank Dell were to be ruled out. But, Sutton, Pittman, I think are fine options up here. A lot of guys in that mid 5K range, upper fours, pretty wide open. Nothing stands out as a clear play at wide receiver. What are your thoughts?
Not at all. I mean, on FanDuel's the same thing. I mean, receiver, I think, is going to be the position that you win or lose. You're pretty concentrated at quarterback, concentrated at running back. This position's wide open. And I definitely agree. I like C-Mac for the $600 savings a lot more than I like Tyreek. But the position is a lot stronger at running back than it is receiver, it feels like. So, which is interesting. Like, would I overspend a little bit for not even overspend, like the dude's, I mean, Tyreek's him too. Like, so I don't know. The more we look at it, because I don't like all of
I see what you're saying. I think a lot of people will just play like a McCaffrey and say, you know what, I'll take my chances on 3 wide receivers who don't appear to be great plays, where we have more solid running back plays outside of McCaffrey. Maybe we play 2 or 3 of those guys and say, I'll just take the security with a Tyreek Hill at wide receiver. So I see what you're saying there, and that could make sense this week. Yeah,
and to be honest, I think you can play both. Like, if we're talking value, so Chris Olave is going to be important. So he actually practiced yesterday. I mean, he was concussion. He was on pace for a monster game. He's had problems with concussions too. But if he's in, which I wasn't expecting earlier in the week by any means, and now it feels like he could be, like A.T. Perry, this guy played all the snaps. Michael Thomas still out too on the Saints. Shaheed as well. He got hurt. Is he Shaheed injury status? So the Saints stuff's really interesting.
Yeah, he's still questionable.
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates.
He didn't practice yesterday, so yeah, that's definitely something to monitor. I think Olave was back, though. I'm fairly certain, or he practiced in some capacity. Yeah, he was limited practice
because of concussion. He's going to have to pass that test. If he passes the test, he's going to play for sure. So
I got your build set up. So a cheap quarterback, Moss, McCaffrey, Hill, cheap defense, and we're sitting at 4,800 per spot. So you can certainly make it happen this week
for sure. And so if Olave's out, like this A.T. Perry guy's 3,300, Elijah Moore's all the way down here at 3,500, Jalen Guyton's 3,300, Marvin Mims is really cheap. I don't know if we need that. Curtis Samuel, like there's enough of these random one-offs that are cheap enough that if I land there's a last piece and I have C-Mac, Tyreek, something, I'm good with it. But some other guys, like you mentioned, Sutton, Terry McLaurin, good game environments there, should be slinging a lot. Demario Douglas, whoever's at quarterback, they just don't really have anybody out there.
No, it can't be worse than Mac Jones. So.
Yeah. So the Saints stuff, very, very the big news on the slate. If Olave's out and Shaheed's out, like this AT, they're not really going to have guys. If they're in, I think Olave's price tag's good. I'm definitely good going right back to Olave, and then we wouldn't have that value, but we still have Guyton and like Trey Palmer.
That's what I was just going to say. He gets 5 to 6 targets every single game, and like he hasn't done a ton, hasn't had a monster game, but you give me a 3.2K guy that's going to get 5 targets, like I think I might be interested.
If it gets you C-Mac and Tyreek. So receiver is going to be interesting. It's going to be key for sure. Of course, Sunday morning's the big show. We'll have that news. We should by then.
All right, FanDuel, I'm assuming it's going to be a lot of the
pretty much the same thing.
Clear out tonight's game. And all right, so Tyreek's all the way up to 10K. Our projections in there. Okay, so Tyreek, Cooper Kupp at 7,100. That is a very cheap price tag for Cooper Kupp. I would be interested there. Tyreek's all the way up at 10. But then after that, it's a lot of the same names. Chris Godwin, 6,300. I mean, he has not had the season, obviously, that he's had in the past. His game's better suited for DK, but it's all going to him. It's all going to him. But a lot of the same stuff over here. Cooper Kupp, 7,100 is the one thing that definitely stands out. And then always Jalen Waddle is cheaper on FanDuel than DK, but they brought him up a little bit. He's up to 7,800. He's clearly a threat to score. Robert Woods as a punt, 5.2. But overall, it's going to be a lot of the same stuff. Cooper Kupp definitely shown as a much better play over here at 7,100. It's the cheapest price tag we've seen on him in a while.
Yep, agree with that. I think the Denver guys are priced a little. So I think Sutton's priced better on DK, but I think like Judy's priced better on FanDuel.
6K flat. I mean, I don't hate that.
Yeah, and it gets rough. Like 6K is pretty much equivalent to like 4,500 on DK, like the Mario Douglas range. So if I land there, totally fine. Should sling it a lot. Josh Downs, good price tag. AJ Brown, if you can't get Tyreek or you have the money for both, 8,400. Again, San Fran's tough, but you want them in competitive games. Good with that price tag.
I don't hate Debo down there. Debo at 73, I don't think is the worst play for cash.
Like you mentioned, the Waddle, Tyreek, both good. Pittman, if you land there. I mean, even Keenan at 9K. The Ayuk's at 8K. Receivers tough. Like I think pricing is efficient on both sides. So that Saints news is huge. If Olave's out, more value opens up. Not necessarily. Like A.T. Perry's still 5,700 on FanDuel, 3,300 on DK. So it's more like tight end. When we go to tight end position, like Juwan Johnson, some of these guys, like the Taysums of the world. The Saints is, I mean, if Olave's out, Shaheed's out, they only got so many dudes. A lot of these people get bums. Is it enough in cash games in a pretty bad offense? I don't know about that yet.
Yeah, over on FanDuel for tight end, we'll stick with it. You started to talk about it a little bit. They finally got our guy McBride up a little bit. He's up to 67. He's got to do something. He's got to do something at 67. He's been living in the 5K range at 67. It's a big difference. You need a game from a tight end at 67. So he's been kind of a lock for the last few weeks. This week, not so much. We do have cheaper options. One guy I did want to touch on is Njoku, who continues just to get peppered with this new quarterback in there, which I think that guy's questionable, so it's something to monitor. But either way, Njoku, last 2 games, 15 targets and 9 targets, 9 before that, 6, 8, $5,600. Cool with that. You got Chig, Logan Thomas popping at 5.2, Kyle Pitts at 5.3. You talked about Juwan Johnson. If all those guys are out, 4.9. Everett 5K, Otten 5.1. I just want a cheap tight end. And I mean, you pretty much have to go cheap. You sort by projection. We just don't have many options as spends. We have Kittle, Laporta, McBride. I don't think I want any of that in cash games. I'm just going to take one of these cheap dudes.
Have we seen a worse tight end slate?
It's terrible, man. Yeah, no Kelsey on here. I mean, there is nothing. And then our cheap guys that we've been playing are more expensive now. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, if those Saints guys are rolled out, what stands out is Taysom and Juwan, but Taysom's 65 and Juwan's 49. So probably take my 49. And not like, I don't know, Olave and Shaheed, if they were out, I don't know how much it changes Taysom's role, but you got to boost at least some rushing attempts and stuff. But again, he's not like stepping necessarily right into that. Juwan Johnson would get a bigger boost because they need guys running routes, probably play more 2 tight end sets. But Logan Thomas at 52 is fine. We'll have to sling it a lot. You mentioned Njoku. Yeah, if I somehow have the money for McBride, but I doubt I do. Schultz, same thing. Fill out everything and hope you get 7 points from a cheap tight end.
Yeah, couldn't agree. Good way to put it there, honestly, because that is the truth. Keep your expectations low with these dudes. That's for sure.
It's going to win someone. Get that position right in tournaments, though. Like if you want to overspend on Laporta, you want to spend on Taysom if they're out. Like if you lap the field at tight end because there's nobody. Yeah. I mean that's the position you did nail. So that's probably my approach in tournaments: overspend or figure out your favorites at tight end.
It's really the same thing on DraftKings because they did a good job of getting McBride up there. He's up to 4.9 now. Even if Schultz plays, he's 5K. So those guys are up kind of in a tier of their own. We're left with the same dudes that we just talked about: Njoku, Chig, Logan Thomas, Cade Otton. I don't mind at the 3.2 price tag. Juwan Johnson, if those other guys are out, it's really the same thing over here on DK. Main point, though, I agree with you. Let's keep our expectations low at the position. We're not trying to get 15 fantasy points from one of these guys. On DK, we're hoping for like 10. And FanDuel 7 to 8, DK 10. We'll take it and move on.
Exactly. Yeah, I think McBride might be a little more in play on DK 4.9.
Yeah.
Instead of 6, whatever he was, and then K. Dotton as well, 3.2K. He's on the field a ton, so I think he makes more sense on DK than FanDuel too. But otherwise, same stuff. And I would be shocked if any tight end was in the cash report. Actually, I wouldn't say that. Jawan, like if all these Saints guys are rolled out, Jawan's probably the guy we get to. So, but if not, it's going to be tough.
He's 3-4 over here in DK, so kind of better.
Which isn't as maybe not as much.
Yeah. FanDuel would make more sense, but tough position. I mean, tough position to fill. There's no doubt about it. We usually don't spend a ton of time on defense. We'll just take a look real quick and see if anything kind of stands out. We have the Falcons showing up as the best projected defense against the Jets. Don't think that's a priority. Yeah, for sure. I don't think it's a priority for cash, but it definitely does make sense. There's no doubt about it. In terms of like the cheaper type options that we can look at, man, I don't know. Patriots at home against the Chargers, maybe at 2-4. It doesn't look like a good week for defense, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get Falcons against Tim Boyle, the running back out there,
man.
Perfect. Sure, but again, if I can't, and like, who else is down there? Patriots at 24. Somehow that 1,000 gets me everything. Tim Boyle could go down first drive, or Brees could go rip off a 70-yard run, and like this stuff is so random nowadays. So I don't know. Falcons if I can. Otherwise, figure it out after you love the rest of your team.
It's really it's ugly, man. It is an ugly position.
Someone's going to nuke it too, and it's going to turn into someone's getting 20.
Yeah, someone will for sure. They priced up a lot of the defenses over there. Let's see on FanDuel. Let's get rid of the primetime games, sort by value. All right, some more reasonable options like the Rams, 3,400 at home. If you want to go cheap, I think that's totally acceptable. Houston super cheap. Like I like that game to score. Obviously, a lot of people are going to like that game to score some points. But at 3,500 against Russell Wilson, certainly will take my chances. Falcons popping here again. Tampa Bay at home against Carolina. I think that's a totally fine option. So I think you can get out of the position a lot easier on FanDuel opposed to DK. Much more difficult over on DK to find something you like at defense.
100%. Yep. A lot of 8 of them, something like that, showing positive value on DK or actually some sort of color for value, whereas DK just won. So looks pretty wide open to me.
Cool. All right. Like I said in the opening, this is all our shows are free over here at ShipItNation.com, ShipIt Nation YouTube channel. We appreciate all the support. Hit the like, subscribe. Helps us out a ton in growing this channel. These shows are free, as I said. We have the premium content over at ShipItNation.com for cash games, specifically 4 core plays for FanDuel, 4 core plays for DraftKings. Use our projections, our other content to build out the rest of your lineup. Cash games have been very, very successful. We got a lot of nice messages coming in. Man, the cash content has been on point this season. Title does such a good job with that. So, you're definitely missing out if you're playing cash games and you're not a member over at ShipItNation.com. If you're watching this live, make sure you get on over to the Mayo Media Network. 25 minutes, myself, Title, Tambo, breaking down the Cowboys and Seahawks showdown slate for tonight. So make sure you check that out if you are watching live. But we'll be back next week with another edition of the Cash Show for Week 14. Good luck in your contest this week, and let's go ahead and ship those cash games.